This is the City of Waupaca, first Tuesday of the month, City Council meeting.
It is 6 o'clock, so we'll begin. We actually have a couple of public hearings, and Jared, I didn't get a chance to ask you, but I'm going to ask you to explain what these ordinances are. You're probably ready for that anyways. So our first public hearing is ordinance number 18-2021. It's an ordinance amending Chapter 17 of the zoning code for manufacturing operations and professional studios. I'll call that meeting to order, and you want to take roll, or can I just say everybody's in attendance? We have Paul Hagan, who's remote, but the other 9 are in council chambers at this time. And Jared, do you want to give the purpose of this hearing?
Yeah, of course. So for this specific ordinance, 1821, actually, this was at one of our past common council meetings. We missed the actual public hearing portion of it, so we did have to bring it back for the first reading and just decided to start over with that process. So this one, professional studios specifically, it was permitted in all of the business districts or commercial districts except B7, which essentially is the same as B2. So just an error there. It should have been permitted across the commercial board. Things like artists, photographers, so pretty minimal in the commercial aspect of things. So just fixing that error, making sure it's allowed in all of the districts. And then the manufacturing operations, in the I2 district, it was conditional, which the I2 district is meant for manufacturing. So really making it a conditional use was just an extra hurdle for something that district is designed for. So just fixing that, making it permitted. Of course, they still have to come through all the site plan process, stuff like that. It's just reducing that conditional use aspect of it. Reducing that unnecessary extra step. So just fixing the errors in that one.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jared, for that explanation. At this time, we will take testimony in favor of the changes to this ordinance number 18-2021. If anybody would like to speak in favor of, step up to the podium, give your name and address for the record, and limit your discussion to 3 minutes or less. Any testimony in favor of? Any testimony in opposition? Same thing. Step up to the podium, give your name and address for the record, limit your discussion to 3 minutes or less. Any discussion and testimony in opposition? Hearing none, I'll declare this hearing closed at 6:03 p.m. And we also have another public hearing, which is ordinance number 2021, an ordinance amending Chapter 17 of the zoning code as it deals with parking requirements. Jared?
Thank you, Mayor. So this one you have not seen before. It's gone through Plan Commission, recommended by Plan Commission. So really, primary thing that we're looking at here, our current zoning code currently has a chart that it provides a list of, I forget how many exactly, 15 or so uses, where it provides specific parking requirements for those uses. Now, a little difficult when you have, in the normal list of zoning uses, land uses, you have 30 to 40 of the land uses. Trying to consolidate those into those set of 15, it can prove to be difficult, providing some businesses far more parking spots than they need, possibly limiting the number of parking spots, which they can always add more. But really the exceedance of needed parking spots is kind of the big one. We've had some recent developments where, looking at their business and, their operations, they really don't need that many parking stalls. Now, in accordance to our code and the way it was written, it is written in such a way that we say, sorry, you are required to have this many parking stalls even if you aren't going to use 10 of them. So just kind of going into here, taking out that chart and making it more of a, putting it on the contractor or business owner or landowner to provide some type of parking justification to say, this is how many parking stalls we need. This is why. Then it's reviewed in that site plan process. If it makes sense, which majority of the time the developers or business owners know their business better than we do. So they're going to know exactly what they need. There are, of course, kind of catches in the code in case they, for some reason, were to misrepresent the amount of parking stalls they need. So if for some reason they say we need 5 stalls and it turns out that it is causing traffic congestion, they're parking in the roads, issues like that, we have a portion of the code in here that allows the city to go back and say, sorry, your parking justification was incorrect. It is causing health and safety issues. Please do another one that is appropriate to your development. And then they're required to add the parking stalls. So that's really a big one, big portion. Then there's just some little changes to clear things up as you're reading the rest.
All right. Thank you, Jarrett. All right. Again, at this time, we'll take testimony in favor of the changes to this zoning code. Anybody would like to make a comment, please step up to the podium, give your name and address for the record, limit your time to 3 minutes or less. Any testimony in favor of? Any testimony in opposition? Any testimony in opposition? I'll declare this hearing closed at 6:06 p.m. And we will go right into our regular city council meeting as soon as Sandy is ready. Ready? Okay. Today is Tuesday, January 4th, 2022, and I'll call this regular scheduled city council meeting to order. And we'll begin, as always, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, then we'll have Sandy read the clerk's open meeting statement for us.
This meeting and all meetings of the Common Council are open to the public. Proper notice has been posted and given to the media in accordance with Wisconsin state statutes, so the citizens may be aware of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting.
And would you also take roll, Sandy?
Brian Smith.
Here.
Colin Dykstra.
Here.
Lori Chestnut.
Here.
Paul Hagan.
Here.
Alan Keeland.
Here.
Scott Perchatsky.
Here.
Dave Peterson.
Here.
Paul Mayo.
Here.
Dimitri Martin.
Here.
Mary Fair.
Here.
And Eric Olson.
Here.
10 present. We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. As we all know, Paul Hagan is with us. He's not in his chair, but he is with us remotely. So that's why you heard him in the background a little bit. Going to change it up just a little bit. I'm going to have the department heads actually introduce themselves. So I'll start with Sandy and go this way around. Just your name and your job.
I'm Sandy Stibbs, the city clerk.
Aaron Jensen, City Administrator.
Kathy Kaza, Finance Director, City Treasurer, Interim.
Peg Burrington, Library Director.
Jared Raiku, Community and Economic Development Director.
And I'm Tom Hart, the City Attorney, for a limited time.
Justin Behrens, Public Works.
Andrew Whitman, Park and Rec.
Brian Hosell, City Waupaca Police Chief.
And we also have Josh Werner, who's in the back with us tonight, who's our IT. All right, thank you, all of you, for doing that. We have consent agenda. You have the consent agenda listed on your agenda that got sent or that got put on the website. We're using that tonight. Are there any items that council members or staff would like to see moved from the consent agenda to the regular agenda where you would act on that individual item with a motion? Anybody would like to see anything moved? Otherwise, we'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Keelan, second by Chestnut, that we approve the consent agenda as printed. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Regular agenda, again, there are no additions or changes to the regular agenda, so we'd be just looking for a motion to approve.
So move. Second.
Motion by Peterson, second by Olson, that we approve the regular agenda as printed. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Under announcements and correspondence, we actually have a presentation of a certificate of appreciation to Officer Nicole Harn for her 20 years of service to the city of Waupaca, and we have that certificate here. Nicole was unable to attend tonight, but we're going to make sure that Chief Hosell gets this to her. Thanks, Chief. Next up, we have public input. This is for non-agenda items. If there's anybody that would like to speak to the council on a non-agenda item, please step up to the podium and limit your time at the podium to 3 minutes or less. Anybody? Yes. Dimitri, go ahead.
I'd just like to report on behalf of one of my constituents who contacted me to comment that the snow removal on Main Street was not sufficient during a snowstorm that happened prior to Christmas. Apparently, the way he describes it is that, and I don't know, maybe Just would know more about the actual timing of it, but that the streets get plowed and then the shop owners have to shovel their sidewalks and they pile it right back into the street that was just cleared. And so because of that sort of timing issue, he commented that there was a lot of snow in the road as people were trying to park. And he had requested that I mention that before the council and request that the council consider looking into what Iola does, where they have city workers that actually clear the sidewalks and then they plow. So something to toss around. I'm not sure what the cost of that would be, but
Thanks, Dimitri. I mean, that's not, it's good to hear, because maybe we can do something to help that, but that's really unchanged from even pre the Main Street project. That's always been the case down there. And I do know when you get out of your car and you want to walk up to one of the buildings, you might end up stepping in some snow, and that's not ideal.
yeah, I should also mention that I spoke with one of the other, one of the property owners that commented that he would be willing to even pay an extra amount, that it might be in the city's best interest, kind of like what we're doing with garbage and recycling, if we could coordinate with like an exterior contractor to take care of that, divide up the cost and charge the property owners on Main Street that the amount that it would cost each individual owner would be consequently less because it'd be a bigger contract. So and that might even be a moneymaker for the city. His thought was.
Interesting enough, you must be listening in on our dirt meetings on Thursday, because we've actually talked about items that the downtown, we could work with the downtown organization, and that's one of those that we actually talked about. So, yeah, interesting. Justin, you want to say anything or no?
Well, you kind of hit it, but we have had those conversations, and we've with internally and then with a number of the shop owners downtown of trying to figure out if there would be a good way to team up and get it done more efficiently. And obviously, if the businesses did form some sort of district and all chipped in, that'd be fantastic, because then the public works guys could just coordinate with one contractor and then get it cleaned up a little bit more quicker. Right now, you have a few people who are Johnny on the spot, a few people who wait that 24 hours, and it is a little bit of a mess. But As far as our crew and clearing off the streets, we get the roads cleared off first. And like Mayor said, that's the way it's been for a long time, but we're always looking to improve. So definitely we'll keep looking at those options.
Can you, thank you again, Dimitri. Justin, can you just touch on, now that Main Street has been redone and we have that extra area between the sidewalk and the road, but it's cemented, what the responsibility of the property owners is?
So the colored concrete, I guess is what you're referring to, should be cleared off. So from the building face all the way to the curb should be cleared off by those adjacent property owners. I have seen a few places where they just got the gray sidewalk cleared off, and I guess that's sufficient for travel, but it's our expectation that the whole thing gets cleared. And we want it to look nice summer or winter.
Okay, go ahead, Eric.
Has there been any discussion, because I know when they redid our sidewalks years ago, that my neighbor actually, I think, put salt down and it kind of ate it up. Is there any discussion that they're supposed to keep salt on it for the first year?
So the first year, if you want to be careful, don't put salt on it. You should use sand. Years ago, it was more of an issue than it is now. I guess within the concrete industry, mixtures have changed. They've been trying to get more creative with additives such as fly ash and slag, which is kind of what the foundry has gotten into a little bit too. That was about 10 years ago when that first started. They've kind of honed it in and things have gotten better. So that it's called spalling. It's when the surface just kind of flakes off. It looks terrible. It looks like it's 50 years old right away. Those kind of issues have subsided, but with brand new concrete, you can go on the conservative side and use sand first year, maybe two, or anytime.
Okay, thanks, Justin. Anybody else that wants to speak on public input? All right, let's move on then. Under unfinished business, we have ordinance number 21, 2021. This is an ordinance changing polling hours for elections, and this is the second reading. So Sandy, you want to just explain what that's all about?
Sure. As I had mentioned 2 weeks ago, this was not, the polling hours changed to 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. years ago, and it never was changed in our municipal code. This is just a cleanup item. So that's all we're doing is cleaning it up.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. So this is the second reading. Sandy, Aaron, you guys have not heard anything from the public about any issues with this ordinance? No. Okay, so we'd be looking for a motion to approve.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Fair, second by Chestnut, that we approve ordinance number 18-2021. Any discussion? I said 18. I meant 21. Right?
21.
Am I the only one that caught it? Or?
Yeah, I didn't catch it.
Okay. All right. All in favor? Oh, we got a roll call vote here.
Please.
Okay. Sandy will call the roll.
Colin Dykstra,
In favor, aye.
Lori Chestnut,
Aye.
Paul Hagan,
Aye.
Alan Keeland,
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Dimitri Martin,
Aye.
Mary Fair,
Aye.
and Eric Olson.
Aye.
10 ayes, motion carried.
All right, next up, we have 18-2021, which is an ordinance amending Chapter 17 of the City of Waupaca zoning ordinance. This is the first reading, and Jarrett, you did give an explanation during the public hearing, but I'd appreciate if you could do that all over again for us.
Of course, Mayor. So this one is, I guess, essentially fixing the errors when we were going through the code, whether these were errors in the previous code and just didn't get fixed, or if they were just missed when we were revising. So essentially the professional studios wasn't even allowed at all in B7, but it was permitted in all the other business districts. Just fixing that, making it permitted. So people have the opportunity to do that if they would so please. And then in the manufacturing operations, in I-2 it was conditional. Just making it permitted. I-2 is meant for manufacturing operations. So really that conditional use is just putting an unnecessary extra step in the process for something that should already be in that district. So just kind of removing a barrier there.
All right, thank you. And that is the first reading of this ordinance also, so you'll see that at our next meeting, which is on the 18th of January. Anybody have any questions on that ordinance? All right, let's go to the next one then, Jared. It's ordinance number 2021, and it's an ordinance amending Chapter 17 of the City of Waupaca zoning ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor. So this one is looking at parking requirements. So really, I guess essentially just reducing the red tape here as well. Right now we have a chart that just isn't comprehensive enough to fit all of the rest of our land uses. The thought process that the developers, the property owners, they should know their business more than we do. So by allowing them to do a parking justification report showing why they need so many stalls and then presenting how many stalls they're going to do, bringing that forward in the site plan process, having staff, plan commission review it. If it makes sense, it's then approved. There is a catch still in the code requirements that if they were to provide inaccurate information, it isn't adequate parking. Walmart comes in and says they need 5 spots. They obviously need a lot more than that. It's causing traffic issues. We have a catch that we can go back and say, hey, we're sorry. Unfortunately, inaccurate information was provided. This is not enough parking. A solution needs to be reached. So those are really the big ones. Big section that has changed. The rest is all kind of accommodating those changes or just cleaning some things up.
All right, thanks, Jared. Again, this is the first reading of 2021. And you'll see this again on the 18th. Anybody have any questions on this ordinance? Dave?
I'll just throw a question up. From my own understanding, if somebody's got to pull up and park a delivery truck out in front of the floral shop on Square here, and they're using one lane of traffic, currently I don't know how long they're there. Is that covered in here at all?
Let's see here. So that was discussed. So in here, I guess it's in the very top part.
Situation like that.
Yeah, a situation. So pretty much it's in here saying that, if the unloading or loading process is prohibiting traffic flow, it's creating a safety interference within the public right of way. We have a piece of code in here saying that it shouldn't be doing that. So it's not specifically exempted, but it's more of that. Then we can go to them and say, hey, this isn't working out. We need you to find a solution, whether that's loading, unloading on off hours, or finding a space that works.
Yeah, Dave, you're right. That's not the only delivery that happens in the downtown area, and although they must do a great business because that truck seems to be there more often.
That is a tight spot to be in, but that's my main point.
Right. The one thing I have noticed is since Main Street is open, we have seen a lot less traffic on East Fulton Street, obviously from Main to Jefferson Street. And I think that's probably helped with the congestion in that area too. So, but it's well noted, Dave, if you see that that's being an issue, let us know, or let Jarrett know, and see what he can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that was the first reading of that ordinance. And I'm going to turn this over to Paul Mayo for an appointment, but I think...
Hey, Mayor. Sorry, Dimitri had his hand raised.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry.
I just wanted to inquire. I imagine that there's still state mandates in terms of minimum number of handicap parking spaces that
Yep.
still have to be adhered to.
Yep, that all still applies. So down in the parking, barrier-free parking stalls, that is kind of where it addresses that the ADA is still required.
Okay.
And whether that kind of goes off of how many stalls they have. So minimal, they would have to have one van accessible and one ADA regular accessible.
And our prior ordinance wasn't more.
Nothing changed in that section really.
Okay.
Just some clearing up of things. I guess rewording, but essentially it says the same thing that they need to follow. The American with Disabilities Act, administrative codes for Wisconsin, et cetera. Shall be located as close as possible. Shall be marked with a sign, et cetera.
Okay, go ahead, Laura.
I just have one little question. Would you help the businesses to find a place? Because looking at deliveries, which do block that, and people have been real patient, because I've been there when they just kind of wait, or the truck driver helps them around or whatever. But would you assist people? Because that is an issue. How are you going to find a place to load or unload?
That is a great question. I guess something maybe we as staff would need to sit down and discuss, DPW, if additional language need to be added or restrictions would need to be placed on times. I guess I don't have a great answer in terms of how we exactly would help them do that, or any direction we could offer.
I'm wondering about if you took at the end maybe and had it for deliveries only.
Creating a designated space, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that could work. I guess, again, sitting down, making sure we're not losing parking stalls that would commonly be used at that time, or, we would have to evaluate further and look into that. But I will make a note, and, we'll go from there.
Okay, anybody else? All right, let me go forward here then. So I'm going to turn this over to Paul Mail, but I'm going to ask Aaron and Kathy actually to explain why we're doing this today.
All right, thank you, Mayor Smith. So you guys will see a memo on page 121 of your packet. This is explaining the appointment of Kathy Kaza as the interim city finance director and city treasurer. Kathy's official retirement date or resignation date, kind of half and half here, from the city was December 30th, 2021. In conversations with Kathy, we knew that it would be beneficial to us as an organization and our operations to keep somebody that's assisting move things forward in that department in this kind of period that we are in between finance directors. She has agreed to do so, and she is also in a position where, we're fortunate where she's working a 20-hour-a-week job at her new position, frees up her afternoons, and she can come and help us and have normal office hours in the afternoons. So I've attached an agreement that would be effective today, moving forward until a time that was determined by myself and Mayor Smith as ending the term of that contract, and that would be upon the hire of a new finance director / city treasurer. You can see here the terms of it. Basically, she would fall under any part-time employee benefits with the city handbook, and I've outlined those in that memo. The position would be compensated at a rate of $57 per hour, and what that is that's her benefit and hourly rate put together right now, but she won't be getting those benefits that are costs to the city. So from an hourly standpoint, it's the same exact impact to the city budgets, and from an overall city budget, it's actually going to be less because it's half-time during this time. So it would be our recommendation that we approve the employment agreement between the city of Waupaca and Kathy for the interim finance director services and city treasurer services, and this would confirm Mayor Smith's appointment.
Kathy, have anything to add to that?
I'm hoping that I can fulfill my position with the city of Waupaca and continue to give you the financial recommendations that continue to help you in making your decisions. So I'm happy to continue to assist the city.
All right. Thank you, Kathy. Paul, I'm going to turn it over to you then.
the mayor would like to appoint Kathy Kaza as the interim finance director. At this time, I need a motion and a second to approve.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Chestnut, seconded by Martin to approve the mayor's appointment of Kathy Kaza as interim finance director. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Back to you, Mayor.
Thank you. This employment agreement too,
That would be a part of that.
so the employment agreement is part of that? That's on,
That is on page 123.
But we need a separate motion because it's an agreement,
well, I think,
because this was just the
That's-
appointment.
I don't believe so. It's one action item on the agenda.
yeah.
And the recommendation was to approve the appointment and agreement.
Thanks, though, Sandy. Okay, thank you, Paul. Next up, we have discussion on the citywide deer hunt. Aaron?
Let's see. Okay, thank you, Mayor Smith. City council members, you can find a memo on page 125 of your packet. This is something that we've done the past 4 years. This would be the fourth. Roger Hansen, our street superintendent, has taken the lead on this effort. This was done to control the deer populations within the city. Ironically, I was on the phone with one of our residents last night and almost hit a deer while I was on the phone with them in the city. Also, I know we got a lot of input from eating plants and things like that. It was deemed a problem. We've had a lot of data shown from police reports on deer car accidents within the city, and this would be really moving forward with a hunt that has happened each of the last 3 years, and the time period would be January 10th through March 31st. The hunt would occur on large tracts of public and private lands, and hunters could sign up through the city website, same process as last year. Roger Hansen, the street superintendent who's running this and managing the program, would meet with each of the people that were issued a license to go through all of the regulations and expectations with them. 20 deer tags would be initially acquired by the DNR, and more would be acquired if needed. So those are the highlights of this. Background checks will be done on all the hunters. There's an agreement that's signed, which I've attached to this memo, and each hunter will need to get a permit to discharge a weapon within the city, being their bow. And this will be a bow-only hunt, no guns allowed, and we're recommending that this would be approved. So the city-managed deer harvest for 2022 would be approved by City Council. And be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Anybody like to make a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Keelan, second by Martin, that we approve of the city-managed deer harvest for 2022. This is from January 10th of 2022 through March 31st of 2022. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Against, say no. Motion carried. All right, next up, we have resolution number 1502 for 2022. This is the COVID-19 vaccination incentive. And Aaron, I'm going back to you here.
Yeah, thank you again, Mayor Smith. Page 127 of your packet, you will see a resolution, as stated, COVID-19 vaccination incentive. So this was just a conversation that we've had internally, and we wanted to come up with a way to incentivize all of our employees to get the vaccination, and not only the vaccination, but also the booster series as deemed appropriate by the CDC, depending on which series you have received. This incentive program, as you can see in the resolution, would continue for a period of 24 months, ending December 31st, 2024, and we could revisit it sooner or at that time if we wanted to extend it. The incentive would be offered to all employees, and the incentive would be an issuance of gift cards to local merchants, likely through the Chamber of Commerce program, and $50 would be given to individuals who provide a proof of vaccination. That could be dating back to months ago when they got it, but if they could provide us that proof, they would get $50, and then $50 for each additional booster shot in the series that is deemed needed. And this would be available to all employees and permanent part-time employees. It would also be, let's see here. Oh, it would be funded through and budgeted through the health reimbursement account, our HRA funds. And that was something Kathy and I had talked about, and it was a recommendation from Kathy. And Kathy, if you have anything to add to that, feel free to do that.
One of the things that we will make sure is that this is also information that will be put in the employee's medical file, which is under different security than their personnel files. So we will have our due diligence done as to the holding of that information.
And to add just one more item to that too, we did have our corporate counsel, Steve Sorensen, take a look at this, and actually this is a resolution that he has recommended if we go in this direction.
I think the timing is incorrect here. If it's for 24 months, it should end in 2023, not 2024. Paragraphs 1 and 2.
Yeah, you're 100% right, Alan. Good catch. So that would be changed. I guess we'd be recommending approval with that date change. Thank you.
All right, so that resolution is a friendly change here, is so it matches the 24 months. It will be from this date until December 31st of 2023 instead of 2024, which is in your packet. We'll get that fixed and get it to Sandy before I sign it. Okay, any other questions?
Just a clarification. Did Aaron say that it's retroactive? People have had it before.
It is. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions? Comments? We're looking for a motion to approve.
Move to approve as amended.
Second.
Motion by Keelan, second by Martin, that we approve the resolution with that one amendment. Any discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Colin Dykstra,
Approve, aye.
Lori Chestnut,
Aye.
Paul Hagan,
Aye.
Alan Keeland,
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Dimitri Martin,
Aye.
Mary Fair,
Aye.
and Eric Olson.
Aye.
10 ayes, motion carried.
All right, next up, we have an application for a temporary Class B retailer's license for Waupaca VFW Post 1037 for a wedding show at the Recreation Center. And Andrew, we got your name stamped on that one.
Yeah, so I'll just give a quick overview of the event, which is a new event to the Waupaca area and the VFW's role in that. So I was contacted by leadership of the Central Wisconsin Bridal Show, Wedding Show, something like that, I'm sorry. And they were looking to move out of the Stevens Point area and move this way, and came and looked at the rec center and thought it was a great location for something like that. So they decided to hold that show this weekend of January 21st and 22nd or 23rd at the rec center. It'll bring a lot of people from the area. They're hoping to draw a lot of people from the Fox Valley and Stevens Point areas to this area. So definitely a good thing for our community. They partner with the VFW as they have at other shows in other areas, different VFWs and groups like that, to do the concessions. As part of that, they would be looking to sell beer at the event. So that is why you see this application in front of you.
All right, anybody have any questions?
One question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just reading it for dates again, like Alan just did. It says January 21, 2, and 3. Apparently, they're only going to sell the concessions, 22 and 23. Because it says both days way down at the bottom, right before where they sign at 9 to 4.
Yeah, the actual show is the 22nd and 23rd, if that's the Saturday and Sunday. I'm not sure why they filled it out the 21st to the 23rd.
Are they gonna do some setup probably maybe on?
They will be setting up that day, but they won't be selling or consuming
That's probably why.
that day. So
So technically if we approve this, we're approving the Class B retailer's license. So Dave, you are correct. We should probably change that to just January 22nd and 23rd.
let me double check those dates. Yes, 22nd and 23rd.
So that's a amendment to what you have in front of you. We'd be looking for a motion to approve.
Can I jump in real quick? Andrew, they also checked the wine. They're going to sell beer and wine at the top.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that a different license?
No, it's all part of this.
Anybody want to make a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Chestnut, second by Fair, that we approve of the temporary Class B retailer's license for the Waupaca VFW to hold a wedding show at the rec center on January 22nd and 23rd of this year. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, say no. Motion carried. Andrew, thanks. You're still up, though. We have some discussion on the senior center coordinator job description.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. We'll wait for Aaron to scroll down here a little bit if you could.
Sorry, Andrew. There we go.
That's all right. So taking a look at this position, anytime that a position is open, it's a good time to take a look at that position, to take a look at the job description, and just kind of see, is it classified the right way? Is it, or what the position really is that really what the job description is? Aaron and I had a chance to sit down and have quite a few good conversations about the position and make sure that the position is set up to do what's best for the community. We took a look at a lot of other job descriptions from around the state. A couple of the samples that I included would be like Two Rivers, Platteville, Shawano, Wanakee. So communities that are larger, communities that are smaller, and just looking at the job descriptions of what their community has for their senior center coordinators, supervisors, and the different names that they have. So after all these discussions and taking a look at these, we felt there were a few changes that needed to be made based on how that position has grown over the last couple of years. So we made those changes in red in the draft that I included. If Aaron could scroll down, we can kind of take a look at each one. So the main changes are changing the title and that main word in the scope of work. So the senior center coordinator was the title. We are proposing to change it to senior center supervisor. It was labeled as an administrative type position, where it has become definitely more of a supervisory type position. As we go through, you'll notice there's going to be a lot of changes that are common with our recreation program supervisor position. So that labeling comes in as well. So some of the smaller changes down below as far as the essential job functions, we added some community events, which has become a big part of what goes on down there and their connection with the community. And just making sure that everything that is done down there is meeting the needs of the area senior citizens. We talked a little bit about the short-term and long-term goals. We added just something brief as far as the budget, with working in conjunction with the Park and Rec director. ActiveNet is just a program that we use that we need to make sure people are able to use, keeping the accreditation through the state, and then trying to create a connection. And this is something that has been talked about since Aaron was the Park and Rec director, building that bridge between the senior center and the youth as far as the programs that we offer, doing some multi-generational programs, working with the library more to make sure that we're not duplicating, but doing the best that we can for the community. And so we just added that in there as well. There's one more thing a little bit lower. which is just teach and become certified to lead exercise classes, which was not in the realm in the past, but has become part of this job now. And I believe that was all the changes that we had come up with. So as I mentioned earlier, with the program or with the position, how it's evolved, it's become very similar with our recreation program supervisor position. And with that, we feel that it's warranted to, if we approve the job description changes, to change the pay scale classification level as well. So you can see up there, this is the table that we currently follow. Level 7 is the senior center coordinator. Level 9, which isn't that far away, is the recreation program supervisor. With the changes and the way that job has progressed, we felt like it was doable to move that from level 7 to level 9 as we look at reposting that position. So if we made the change to the name, it would be the senior center supervisor, would be on the same level and scale as the recreation program supervisor. Is there any questions?
Go ahead, Dimitri.
What are the three columns representing in the pay scale?
So the first one, that's good. The label is not there. And Aaron, I don't remember the exact terminology, but it's essentially just the low end, the high end, and the middle. I don't know if there's a better way to describe that.
Yep. So if we're looking at the top, let's just take that 1524 and then going down. That's the low point, the low end of the range. Midpoint would be the next column, and then the far one would be the high point of the range. And then you can see the H in the annual, hourly, or annual, the levels there.
And so they move within low to high based on experience and performance, basically, correct?
That's a really great question. And typically, past practice, when we bring people on board for the city of Waupaca, we hire within that range based off of experience. One thing we don't have currently is a consistent way for high performers to move up within the range. So if you get hired in the 10th percentile, you still might be in the 10th percentile. Now, you'll have moved up because the range will have moved up over time, but there isn't a great consistent mechanism to move people up within their range. What I've seen in the past couple weeks or past couple months and looking at some of these positions we have open is that our ranges in all of those positions are really spot on with other comparables. So that is a good and a positive thing. And we've talked internally lately about creating that mechanism to where our employees and our high performers can move up within the established range, if that helps answer the question.
And it does allow, as far as promotion of that open position, it does allow to promote that as the range as far as possible pay based on experience, like Aaron had said, experience and qualifications.
And then one other question, are there levels above 9, or is that the highest? Is there?
There are other levels. I don't know how many overall. We just put the ones that were encompassing of this, what we were bringing up today.
Yeah, there are. We have it segregated in different departments, different tabs, and different departments. So there are levels above 9. This is just the levels that were being discussed. So that's why these are included.
So someone could potentially move up a level as time goes on and they perform. There's room for advancement, I guess.
I think the room for advancement from level to level is when we, kind of what Andrew just did in the last couple of weeks, is when you review that job description and you see that job description is a comparable with level 9 in this case rather than level 7. And that's where it moves up. When the position moves up in levels, that's where that comes. If it's based on high performance in the future, I see that being just within that range.
Okay, Dave?
I guess my question has to be with losing Sarah, who was a highly valuable employee. Everybody's all said that. The change is minimal. I mean, there's the red changes you're talking here. Basically, it's the same job, and she didn't have the chance to, whether she would have accepted the new position here or not with this higher pay, I don't know. I would consider this almost a slap in the face to her because you didn't really change anything. You just offered more money and changed the title.
This is something that
So I have a little problem with that. I mean,
this is something that was going to be worked on before that even happened, and that was communicated that we were going to work on this.
I think, Dave, I responded to you in an email, and so I'll just respond again to that. Sarah met with Andrew and Aaron and myself to discuss her position. And although we didn't disagree with her, we didn't have a mechanism to move forward with that. And we asked her to give us the opportunity to work on that and come up with a plan as we move forward. But in the interim, she resigned her position. So we never had the opportunity to do that. And I think you'll see later on tonight that the process does work if you allow it to go through, because there's another recommendation you'll see later on in this meeting. And the process did work. So I would disagree with you, Dave. I think we did everything we possibly could to make this position a position that would be that would work for our senior coordinator. So, anybody else have any questions? I want to go back to your question, Dimitri, the one you had previously. I want to make sure that you understand this too, that scale that you were looking at, the 3 levels there, that basically is just used for hiring purposes. That's it. Okay? It's not used for promotion or anything like that. It's just for hiring purposes. What Aaron was talking about is maybe we could take this and use it for promotions in the future, but that's not where we are right now. I hope you understood that.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay.
And I'm glad to hear that you're looking at maybe making that happen in the future.
Can you use your microphone, please?
Yes, I got that, and I'm glad that you're looking into making that a potential in the future for recognizing achievement. I did have one other question. I saw that part-time was crossed off, and in place it's full-time. So would this position then come with additional benefits?
No, and thank you for bringing that up because we have to bring up something else. I'm surprised. I forgot that. So that was just a fix from the last time when this position went part-time to full-time. That should have been changed in the past, so it's just a fix now. It was not a part-time position the last 5 years.
Yeah, so if you take the position that was prior to Sarah, if we're using names here, which was Terry Moll, her position was part-time, and when Sarah was hired, she was hired as a part-time individual, and we did move her up to full-time at that time, which she then gained benefits by doing that. And what Andrew is saying is we never changed the job description.
Yeah.
It still said part-time even though she was full-time.
So it is a fix. Another thing that needs to be changed, thank you, Alan, for catching this yesterday, is it needs to change from non-exempt to exempt as well. So positions like myself, the rec program supervisor, those are classified as exempt positions and not non-exempt.
Do you want to explain, or Aaron, you want to explain the difference between non-exempt and exempt?
It just means it goes from an hourly to a salaried position. So, and these, where there's events and there's programs, and it's just, this is the ideal position to have as a salaried position because there could be weird hours.
And that's another layover from the change from part-time to full-time. I believe that position was hourly at the part-time.
Correct.
And then it should have changed with the full-time to exempt.
There are certain qualifications you need to meet that. One of them is having some supervisory duties. This person does supervise part-timers. So it meets the bill.
So that will have to be, I don't know if that has to be read differently in the motion because it's not changed in here and in red. but that will need to be changed as well.
So if you do approve this, somebody will have to make a motion to amend that part of that, or we'll have it as amended that it says it's exempt. And I think that's good enough. Anybody else have any questions? So we're looking for approval of this change in job description for the senior center supervisor.
I move to approve as amended from non-exempt to exempt.
Motion by Keelan,
Second.
second by Chestnut, that we approve of the new job description for senior center supervisor with that one change to from non-exempt to exempt. Any further discussion? Sandy, will call the roll?
Colin Dykstra.
Aye. Approve.
Lori Chestnut.
Aye.
Paul Hagan.
Aye.
Alan Keeland.
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky.
Aye.
Dave Peterson.
Aye.
Paul Mayo.
Aye.
Dimitri Martin.
Aye.
Mary Fair.
Aye.
And Eric Olson.
Aye.
10 ayes, motion carried.
Did that include moving up the classification level table as well, or is that a separate motion? I don't know if that was part of that first motion.
So
Because the change in the job description, it also needs to move up from level 7 to level 9.
So in the job description, does it say that specifically?
No,
All right,
that's a separate.
Let's take a motion then. So what you're asking is that right now the senior center coordinator is level 7, and you want to see that coordinator's position moved up to level 9.
Correct.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion to approve that?
Move to approve.
My correction
Second.
first, senior center supervisor.
Okay, well then it
Don't
needs
say
to be-
coordinator again, because that's back to where you were.
He's saying with the change you guys just made, it's now senior
Okay.
center
All
supervisor.
right, so
I believe.
I won't even mention that. I'll just say we're going from level 7 to level 9. How's that? Just to be on the safe side. And the motion by Olson, and who was the second? I'm sorry.
I did.
And second by Fair, that we change from level 7 to a level 9 for this position. Any discussion? Sandy, will call the roll.
Colin Dykstra.
Approve. Aye.
Aye.
Sorry. Aye.
Lori Chestnut.
Aye.
Paul Hagan.
Aye.
Alan Keeland.
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky.
Aye.
Dave Peterson.
Aye.
Paul Mayo.
Aye.
Dimitri Martin.
Aye.
Mary Fair.
Aye.
And Eric Olson.
Aye.
10 ayes, motion carried.
Thank you.
All right, Andrew, thank you for that explanation. Next up, we have, where am I? Resolution number 1501, a resolution establishing special charges for garbage and recycling for the calendar year 2022. Justin?
Thank you, Mayor. So here we are talking trash again. With the recently adopted ordinance that took an effect January 1, near the end, it says that basically each year the Common Council will resolve the special charge for that year. So it's a transparency thing where we bring it in a resolution form and we put on here the number that's going to be the monthly charge for each and every individual that's in the program. So again, transparency and to ensure that everybody's getting the same rate no matter where they live and what kind of unit they are in. So this is the first time this has ever happened, but it will happen every single year. And if we don't do it, then the charge will be not updated. So in the past, with the bids that we received from the various companies, there was increases of roughly 2 to 3% each year. So next year we'll have to have another resolution with an updated price. But again, a transparency of here's the rate you're going to charge per month for this year. I'd love to read the whole thing, but I'll spare everyone. At the bottom is the meat and potatoes of the whole thing. So $13.92 is the monthly charge for garbage and recycling. You may request an additional garbage tote. That's an extra $9.90, and an extra recycling tote is $4.02. Finally on there is the diesel surcharge. So that was talked about in the past. When the cost of diesel fuel rises above 4 gallons, there will be an additional charge to everyone to cover that cost for the contractor. So the wording of that is in there. For a quarter rise in fuel, the cost of the service will increase by 1%. So being a newly charged, trying to be transparent, show what the actual cost is, put it all on the table, and just make it official through a resolution.
Thanks, Justin. Justin, that $13.92, that includes our administrative fee in there too?
That's correct. I should have mentioned that.
All right. Go ahead, Scott.
You said we're going to come back every year and vote on what you're going to charge. Wasn't there a contract? Remind me, if my memory, was the contract for 3 or 4 years, wasn't it, at a certain price?
It's 5 years. So yes, we have a contract in place for 5 years. The prices are laid out in that contract, and then we discussed of putting a 10% administrative charge on top for our billing department to administer the billing.
So what he's saying is that you need a new resolution each year because the price will be different. I think you probably could have done one resolution with the whole contract in there, but this is probably cleaner doing it every year.
Well, when I read the ordinance, that's how I took it, so.
All right. So it works. Anybody else have any questions? Go ahead, Kathy.
Just to clarify, because this is a service charge special revenue fund, that there could be, if with the 10%, if we don't have that amount of overhead, there could be a reduction applied depending on, or if we get any grants for the program, there could be some change in the price. So to be more transparent would be to approve this is what the charge is going to be.
Yeah. So this has really nothing to do with the resolution, but can you mention the grant from CAP Services again? I don't think you can say it too many times. Or Kathy, one of you.
I can take it.
You
It
know
comes
it
out of
better
my
than I do.
office. Because this charge is on the water bill, if somebody is having financial difficulty due to COVID, there are programs not only through CAP Services or through CAP Services and some other programs that the state has available to help people with their utility bills. They can get information from the finance office as to what programs are available, but the refuse, because it's on the utility bill, would be covered under this community development block grant, COVID grant that we have going through CAP Services right now. So that is covered because it is on the utility bill.
So they can contact your office?
They can contact our office. Shelley does a really good job in fielding where people can go for assistance. Sometimes they're veterans, so she does recommend some of the veterans programs that are available for people to pay their utility bills. So our office does try and make accommodations and find ways for people to help pay their bills.
Good. Let's go back to the resolution then again. We would need a motion to approve that resolution if you're okay with it.
Move to approve.
Second.
Who was it? I'm sorry.
Both of us.
Motion by Fair, second by Peterson, that we approve resolution number 1501, 2022. Any discussion? Go ahead.
Mayor?
Hold on.
Go ahead, he can go first.
Paul, go ahead.
Could you discuss the changeover from the contracted garbage to the city? Some folks have their garbage cans out through different people, and I don't know that when are they going to be picked up, and if you have any information on that, please.
Justin, would you?
Yeah, so the pickup, if you had a contract with another hauler, just leave those bins out by the roadside. It's my understanding that those companies had meant to get those picked up or start doing that, and it's just taking a little bit more time. I did see one of those companies out and about today doing that same thing. So it's happening. It's going to make the streets look a little bit more cluttery, but I would say that's the smart thing to do to make it easier for those companies to get rid of them.
Have all the new bins been distributed?
As far as I'm aware, I haven't heard any complaints from Shelley. Kathy has?
Mine yet.
You haven't?
So contact Shelley, right?
Or you can call me.
Can I just consider this telling you?
Yep.
And you can add me to that for my house on Berlin.
Their neighbors. They didn't go, yeah.
No, he was talking about his place on Berlin Street. Paul was. I heard that part of it. Okay. Colin, go ahead.
Justin, this question is, I think, part of the resolution, but it might not be. In the future, as buildings are built in the city, how does that person get charged? Is the contract for what was set up, the number of buildings that were there before? It's not coming out very well, but as we get 10 new houses,
yep.
What?
It's the same price. So the more they get, the more they like, because they can be more efficient with their pickup.
Okay.
So how it works is when a new home, we'll say, is built, there's an occupancy permit, that's issued. Once that is issued, that triggers the bins going out there, the water, sewer, garbage, utility billing occurs at that time too.
Okay, so we don't have to consider like some sort of reserve for new houses being built in our fees?
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
Nope.
Okay, anybody else? Ready to vote? Sandy will call the roll.
Colin Dykstra,
Aye.
Lori Chestnut,
Aye.
Paul Hagan,
Aye.
Alan Keeland,
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Dimitri Martin,
Aye.
Mary Fair,
Aye.
and Eric Olson.
Aye.
10 ayes, motion carried.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have a Wisconsin Public Service utility easement request. Justin?
Thank you, Mayor. So starting on page 137 is my memo, followed by supporting documents. So Wisconsin Public Service is requesting an easement from the city on two different properties. One is the lift station on Apple Tree Lane. The other is a electrical facility, I guess, on the Eco Park property. There is underground facilities there that they want to make improvements to, so that's a benefit to us. But within their process, they need to get an easement because they're moving outside of the public right-of-way. It's city land, so any kind of change to city property needs common council approval. Basically, reviewed this with utility staff and then also park and rec staff. We see no issues with what they're asking for. The exhibits, if you want a quick look of what's going on, 143 and then also 147 shows the areas of where they're going to be improving their electrical facilities, basically to our facilities, and what will be going underground for electrical wiring. So I need approval from Common Council to get this going, give WPS the approval to install this and make those improvements. The documents for these easements are also attached, which basically describe the area and what will be done and what each party is allowed and not allowed to do. So like most standard easements, they're allowed to put those there. We're not allowed to, I guess, put anything over the top of it. But with Wisconsin Public Service in the event in the future, we ever want to do something, they've always been good to work with to make accommodations. So with that, the requested action is in there for approval of those two documents.
Okay, you heard the recommendation from Justin that he would recommend that we allow this easement from Wisconsin Public Service for these two properties. Would you like to make a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Chestnut, second by Martin, that we approve of the Wisconsin Public Service utility easement request as presented. Any discussion? Sandy, will call the roll?
Colin Dykstra.
Aye.
Lori Chestnut.
Aye.
Paul Hagan.
Aye.
Alan Keeland.
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky.
Aye.
Dave Peterson.
Aye.
Paul Mayo.
Aye.
Dimitri Martin.
Aye.
Mary Fair.
Aye.
And Eric Olson.
Aye.
10 ayes, motion carried.
All right, it's still up, Justin. We got the 8,000 Building Digest Cover Rehabilitation Project. I'm sitting on pins and needles, so can you get this going?
Yes, wastewater. Starting at 148, so 8,000 building, it's just the name of the building down there. It's the oldest part of our treatment plant that has gone through some changes over a number of years. The last meaningful change was it was converted into a fixed cover digester. We still use it. It is essential for our process managing our waste sludge, this is what happens on the backside. It's an expense because what we don't process after this tank, we have to pay to haul away. We have to pay somebody to haul it away for us, and that's a considerable expense each year. So the better we can improve this process, we're hoping we can reduce our expenses. So this project was looking to convert that cover from a fixed cover back to a moving cover, which is very common. Our main digester is a moving cover, so it's not anything unusual. While we were going to do that, remove the cover and then rehabilitate the inside of the tank, which means the concrete walls would be cleaned, the piping would be replaced, valves, gaskets, that sort of thing would all be done. This project was put out to bid less than a year ago. In the spring of 21, we received some very awkward bids where the low bid was above budget and the high bid was just very, very high. So we pulled it and we reassessed. We did a few things internally to try and reduce what we felt was risk that we were seeing was reflected within the bids. So we removed the cover ourselves. We hired a crane operator and had the inspection done and then included that in the rebid. It seems to have worked. So we did get 3 new bids. As you can see on page 2 of the memo, which is 150 in the packet, 3 bidders, the low being in the $330,000 range. That is under budget. We budgeted $400,000 for the total project. McMahon Engineers and Architects included a letter of recommendation. So those were the company that we hired to do this design and bid. So they are recommending August Winter for this project. They check all the boxes. They included all the appropriate information, have all the insurance coverages. So we are ready and to go with this project. So looking for a recommendation from council to go with August Winter and Sons for construction services for the 8,000 building digester cover rehabilitation project, an amount not to exceed $332,500, with the funding coming out of the sewer revenue bonds.
Anybody have any questions? Would you like to make a motion to approve this project?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Olson, second by Chestnut, that we approve entering into this contract with August Winter and Sons Incorporated. Any discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Colin Dykstra,
Aye.
Lori Chestnut,
Aye.
Paul Hagan,
Aye.
Alan Keeland,
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Dimitri Martin,
Aye.
Mary Fair,
Aye.
and Eric Olson.
Aye.
10 ayes, motion carried.
All right, thanks, Justin. Next up, you have license report number 1563. This is, of course, has to do with our operator's license or bartender's license. We would need a motion to approve. Is that top one that has an asterisk, is that one, are we approving that one tonight, Sandy?
Yes.
Okay, so they're all there to be able to be approved. So we'd be looking for a motion to approve.
Move to approve license report 1563.
Second.
Motion by Keelan, second by Hagan, that we approve license report number 1563. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, say no. Motion carried. All right, under issues and discussion, and again, remember that there is no action required with these items at this time. No, one of them we'll be looking for an action at a future date. But let's start with the discussion on the snow removal. I asked Jarrett to just make a presentation in front of City Council and was hoping that, of course, the county post would pick up on this and also that our Josh would pick this up too and put it on our TV and radio stations too, because obviously this is very timely and people usually have questions about this. So Jared, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so this is, no matter which municipality you're in, this is always a hot topic item. Specifically when people are trying to walk around on the sidewalks, use the sidewalks. So started off left-hand column, kind of went through the process of the city. So how we handle these events. I will say it's hard to have a perfect process, even if you had 2 full-time designated snow clearing officials in the city, it still wouldn't be a perfect process on our end. So really kind of hitting the highlights. 48 to 72 hours after a snowfall event occurs, city employees go out. They inspect the city for properties that have not shoveled. That 48 to 72 hours, it is dependent on staff availability and weather. If it's going to snow 2 days in a row with a 12-hour gap in between, most people, they won't shovel. So similar instance is why it's 48 to 72. And then staff do have other priorities that may have been set up months in advance that they cannot drop. So there's a little bit of leeway in there. And I guess another one is our DPW crew doesn't even finish their plowing for 48 hours. We do have many streets to plow, so getting out there at a reasonable time that inspection can occur and then clearing can occur by the DPW crew is also required. But in that inspection, a list of properties are created that need to shovel or have not shoveled. That list is provided to the DPW crew streets. They set a day to go out, take care of those properties. They mark down which properties they do. And then that is given to our deputy clerk and code enforcement officer to kind of take care of the fees. So going to the fees, I guess that is a big one. The first fee is $75. So that $75 is meant to cover the cost of staff time to go out and clear those sidewalks. So labor, materials, equipment. it is an average on larger projects. So maybe say they have a corner lot. It really may be more than $75. Maybe they have the bare minimum lot width with a smaller sidewalk. It may be less, but that $75 is really that typical cost that it would take for labor, materials, equipment. So that second offense, that is a $75 fee and then also a $169 citation. So really the goal is to not have the city to spend time doing this. This is important. But at the same time, this should be the responsibility of those property owners. The third offense, it is another $75 fee and then a $200.50 citation. I guess I don't know if it continues going up from there. I did not gather that information, as we usually do not have fourth repeated offenders. So I just really wanted to include the first, second, and third as those are the primary. In that middle section, I did kind of go around. As I said, we are not the only ones that deal with this. Every municipality has sidewalks, and the clearing of the sidewalks is, of course, important to every municipality. That really runs down a full list of reasons and situations on where, and why it's important. For example, I was driving through Stevens Point and I saw an elderly gentleman out walking with his walker. And there was a section where a utility pole was kind of butting in and he was having trouble getting around it and getting his walker. So, it is very important to many individuals using the sidewalks. On the right-hand side, I did just kind of go over some common questions, some answers to those to try to assist when it is posted places. So if you have any questions now, and then if you do have any questions throughout the winter season, please feel free to reach out.
Thanks, Jared. Anybody have any questions or comments at this time? Again, this was just for informational purposes only, but we usually have one or two people that come in every year and say, hey, I didn't know about this. So we try to get the word out as much as we can. So thanks, Jared, for putting this together.
Not a problem.
All right, next up, which is something that we've been talking about for the last few months at the mayor staff level. And I'm glad to see that we're at a point where we can start talking about rolling this out. I think it's a really, really cool thing for the city, as you'll see as we go through this process. But I'm going to let Aaron explain it to you, and of course I'll get to give you my points as we go through the whole process too. But so listen intently. If you're out there in the public, listen, because I think you're going to like what you're hearing. So, Aaron.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. On page 156 of your packet, you'll see a memo that is from myself and Kathy. And I want to say that throughout this conversation, you'll hear from me. Kathy will chime in. Mayor Smith probably as well. This actually started as his kind of a brainchild of his a few months back. And we've been reviewing some things since. And the reasons that we think it makes sense are outlined in this memo. And then it'll conclude with a little slideshow presentation from Andrew Dane, who will be joining us virtually if he's not on already. So I'm going to start with the background. As a part of the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, as you guys all know, local governments received ARPA funding as a part of a $130 billion spending package. And the city of Waupaca's total ARPA payment will amount to $624,766 after the second installment. We have received one installment. That second installment is expected to come sometime in this spring of 2022. I've bullet pointed the eligible uses for this fund: revenue replacement for the provision of government services to the extent of the reduction in revenue due to COVID-19. Now, that one is one that a lot of local governments are using it for, is just replacing revenues. They can basically backfill their general fund for the revenues that they did not receive. Because of our building permits, we have budgeted the last 2 years $75,000 in revenue for building permits, and we have been just shy of $300,000 in 2020, And in 2021, we were over $300,000 in building permit revenues. So what that did was that basically alleviated the ability for us to be able to backfill revenues because we covered our losses in other places. One of the losses was, for example, the police department in ticketing. You know, we did less ticketing in the downtown area, things like that. So, but we covered those revenue losses with building inspection permit revenues. COVID-19 expenditures and negative impact to households. So this is really what we're talking about here. So assisting households that were negatively impacted by COVID-19, and that's kind of what our proposal hits, that second bullet point. You'll see premium pay for essential workers. I have not seen many municipalities utilize this as the definition of essential workers, and it gets a little sticky. So for the investments in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure, this is one that is being used by multiple municipalities, specifically broadband, specifically around us in the surrounding areas. But we are fortunate enough to have high coverage of internet in the city, whereas, you know, townships, Farmington, Dayton, Lind, and rural townships all across the country do not. So that is something that counties and townships are spending a lot of dollars on. So in summary, I kind of just gave you some summaries there in my background explanation, but a couple other things I think that are important to hit on is this is an opportunity to really make an impact in some areas that we haven't yet made an impact on within our strategic plan. We've been fortunate enough and really, I'll say fortunate enough, but also we've been able to have an impact on a lot of our strategic plan areas and that accelerate economic development because of the policies that City Council has supported. One of those is the Downtown Business Incentive Program, which has been a huge success so far. And then our housing, the market has played in our favor that way, and we've been able to increase housing units, both multifamily and single family, and we continue to look to do that. This would hit on one, as you can see, encourage reinvestment in our current housing inventory. And this gives us an opportunity to do that through funds that we didn't necessarily expect to have. Now, there was an effort a couple years ago that Habitat for Humanity came in and had an impact on that, and that was brought by some donors and some philanthropists that gave money to that group, and they had an impact on 30 homes. But this is an opportunity for us as a city to lead a program that could have a much larger impact than that. So guidance from the United States Treasury is to spend the ARPA funds on one-time projects. We view this as exactly that. This is a one-time project. It's not an ongoing project that will impact our budgets past 2024 because there's an expenditure period in which this program has to end. So how long that money lasts is a question. Depends on how much it's taken advantage of, but we feel like it will be popular. And the program, just some bullet points of that program, and Andrew's going to get into more of this, but some highlights. We are looking to target some older homes. The city of Waupaca, as you can see in one of my attachments, does have an aging housing stock that when you compare it to other communities, we have a much older housing stock and housing inventory than other communities. That is something that was specifically mentioned in our strategic plan. Assist individuals who are unable to do repairs because of the closures and layoffs or negative impacts related to COVID-19. And, you know, the United States Treasury suggested that, you know, make sure that we watch this for a little bit. We are sure that whatever we spend it on is a qualifying event. We did run this by our legal counsel. They have confirmed that, yes, this would be a qualifying use of the expenditures. We would have a checkbox on the application that would require the applicant to self-certify that they have been negatively impacted by COVID-19, and they would have to sign off on that. And then this would also provide a program that attracts people to live in the city of Waupaca. We talk about what are the benefits of living in a city as opposed to maybe a township, and how many cities or how many townships, how many areas are talking about, you know, utilizing it in this way. If you're a resident, this is a real benefit that you can put capital back into your home, and that doesn't exist everywhere. And that's a reason that we believe people will find our city as an attractive area to be. program budget, you can see there, I've some numbers, just $600,000 for home repair grant allocation. So that $600 would be kind of administered a lot like the downtown business program grant. And again, Andrew will get into that. That's another reason that we feel confident that we can run with this program moving forward, is we're kind of coming off the heels of a very similar program, and we feel like we have the experience in administering something very similar to it. And then I set aside approximately $25,000, or the remaining balance, $24,766, for program administration. One thing we talked to our Jared in the Community Economic Development Department, our building inspectors, because the reality is that these projects still have to go through the proper applications, the processes, the building permits, the closeouts in areas, and that does add to staff time. So we've talked about utilizing interns that are looking to get into that field to process some of the administrative work, things like that. Because what we want to make sure is we give ourselves the resources to not fall behind in other areas. For those people that are doing normal projects, we don't want to not be able to serve them because of being overwhelmed with a program. So this is to help with that. So right now, we're not looking for any formal action. This is a discussion. It's a presentation. It's an opportunity for us to share the idea. And you can see in my attachments before I hand it to Andrew, I did attach some of the guidelines. He'll talk about actually even an update or two that we've changed since it got in the packet. But Andrew, if you're on, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can. And it looks like you're sharing it. Perfect. I'm going to blow this screen up and I'll let you run with it.
Okay. Great. I have a little bit of an echo, hopefully not too annoying on your end.
Sounds good.
Okay. So I think I'll probably go through here fairly quickly, maybe talk a little bit about some of the data, and then leave time for some Q&A at the end, since I think we've hit already some of the key highlights here. So what would this We Are Waupaca housing program look like? You already mentioned, Aaron, I think some of the overall purposes of the program. I do think that third bullet is a good one. I think as word gets out, similar to the downtown incentive program, this may very well attract people into the area and be another reason to incentivize, encourage people to come in and in particular, perhaps purchase and rehab some older homes in the city. I had a little bit more specific goals or objectives or targets, depending on your strategic planning background and preferred names for these sorts of things. But just looking at the budgeted amount, I kind of had a goal of my own head of 60 to 80 homes or projects, given the budget that we're working with. And if we leverage that, if it leverages somewhat similar to the downtown incentive program, perhaps up to over $1.5 million worth of new investment in home repairs. I thought it would, I went and grabbed the most recent 5-year American Community Survey data on home ownership and put that up here, comparing Waupaca and Wisconsin. The census figures on homeownership haven't come out yet. But as you can see, one of the things that I think continues to be, it's a challenge or it's an opportunity, but relative to the state and a lot of peer communities, we do have a larger percentage of renter-occupied housing. I think this program could help perhaps alleviate that trend a little bit. Part of the reason that number's so high is because we do have older populations living by themselves and that sort of thing. But I did think it was interesting just to look at the most recent data here and see that our owner-occupied renters still about a 50-50 split, which is a little high. And then just updated this graph that we've shown a few times, but just to showing the residential units added by year over the last 20 years with blue for single family and orange for multifamily units. And as you can see, we've had a nice little burst of housing units added in the last 3 years. And we think that there's a good chance that we could continue that trend out over the next few years. When we look at sort of the housing stock of Waupaca, of the, what was it, roughly 3,000 housing units, maybe it's a little more than that, 45% of them were built before 1970. So the 764 of these units, or roughly 25% of the units, are actually built before 1940. So the city does have a relatively old housing stock. And then I did a little comparison here with the city of Waupaca in blue, Wisconsin, the state of Wisconsin in orange, and the United States in gray. And these are the percentage, just the highlighted figures are the percentages from housing units built by year for the city of Waupaca. So again, you can see that there's a very relatively large number of homes in the city of Waupaca that are quite a bit old, are older compared to the U.S. And to the state. The flip side of that is kind of interesting. If you look at the 2010s, 2000s, even the 1990s, you can actually see that relative to the state and the country, Waupaca actually has a relatively higher percentage of homes constructed and more recently, which I thought was also kind of interesting. We're looking at the program here is essentially geared towards residents who live in owner-occupied single-family homes built in 1970 or prior, and that house, of course, needs to be located within the city of Waupaca. We're looking at a program that would be up to $10,000 per project, and depending on the applicant's household income, that would either come in the form of a grant, 100% grant, up to $10,000, or a 50% grant. If the owner was doing a $10,000 project, they could get or $20,000 project, they could get $10,000 would still be the cap. If they're doing a $2,000 project, they could get $1,000 back. So we're using this county median income, which is the same benchmark that CAP Services uses. And depending on your household size, there's a table there. And so, for example, if you just looked at a household size of 4, 80% of county median income is $59,450. So if the household earned less than that figure, they would receive up to a $10,000 grant for the home repair project. If they were above, if their household was 4, but they were in the 60s or 70 or 80,000 or above, they would just receive a 50%. There would be a 50% match requirement. Some of the eligible projects, and this is one of the changes we've considered since I think the packets went out. Eligible projects, we did, I think, add siding on here. We wanted to stick with things that are traditionally considered minor home repair program elements and things that would be visible from the street. But in addition to the primary residence, we also thought a detached garage would also be an eligible project. And these are all of these items, I believe, except for driveways, are things that, some owners could self-perform or do themselves. But we will require the homeowner to follow get the permits as they normally would have to do in any other project. So yeah, again, applicants can kind of do this stuff themselves if it's allowed under the Uniform Dwelling Code, which the city follows, has adopted. And one other little nuance here is we're looking at, for those households that are eligible for the full grant, we were looking at perhaps doing a 3-party agreement where the city would just pay the contractor directly after the project is done and inspected. We thought that would just eliminate a little bit of, streamline things a little bit. And then the 50% matching grants would probably be done similar to the downtown incentive program, where we reimburse the household after they do all the expenditures. A little bit on administration, I guess. We wanted to keep this perhaps a little bit more streamlined than the downtown program, but we would submit, applicants would submit information. We were thinking at this point, our staff would meet, we'd probably review these, say at a DIRT meeting, and then we'd make a recommendation to the CDA, which could approve or deny the requests. But we thought, given the number of projects, the size of the projects, the target audience, we didn't think it made sense to require all the applicants to come in and do a presentation in person, but we thought we would still bring those forward to the CDA for approval. And that gets us to Q&A.
Good job, Andrew. Good explanation of what we're trying to do here. Again, I think it's important to emphasize that if your income level, if you own a home that's 1970 or earlier and your income level is below what that chart showed, you would qualify for 100% grant up to the $10,000 if you were to spend the $10,000. The other thing that Andrew talked about too, about working directly with a contractor, we felt that the lower income people would have a hard time having the money up front to pay the project and be reimbursed. So we thought we would just, they would work with the contractor, but we would pay that contractor directly. People that are over that income level, obviously, they can get up to a matching grant up to $10,000. So they'd have to spend 20 grand to get that 20,000 grant. They would have to pay it all up front and then receive a grant for half of it back from the city once the project is completed. And again, I think it's important that we say this is on 1970 homes or before. And I think, Andrew, maybe we should just put in there who qualifies for this or who doesn't qualify for these grants.
Who wouldn't? Yeah, we could be more explicit in that when we develop the marketing materials, et cetera. One thing I did want to, I guess, mention, I forgot to, is that we will have the opportunity here to also make referrals to other programs. So CAP Services does have a major home repair program operating within the city. It's been, they've been doing 1-2 projects a year. I think with us having this program up and running and our ability to market their program, we may have a great opportunity to see the major home repair program really take off as well, and that's all done through CAP Services and other funding sources outside of the city dollars. So I think there's a neat opportunity there to sort of leverage this program, and then we're also having some conversations with the U.S. Department of USDA Rural Development and looking at other funding sources that could come into play to kind of extend the life of this program or leverage its impact.
Yeah, that's a great point too, Andrew, because some of these opportunities are out there and people just don't know about them. So through this process, we're going to try and promote the other options that people might have too. So it could become even bigger than just our project alone. Aaron, you wanted to say something?
I did. Just to your last kind of point, Mayor, people that are ineligible, it would be similar to the downtown incentive program. So anytime you as elected officials, myself as a staff member that's involved in bringing a program forward for the benefit of the community, and then voting on it to institute it. We cannot ethically take advantage of these programs. So just wanted to make that clear. So we're not taking action tonight, but that is written in the guidelines as well.
So everybody else, it does qualify though.
Everyone
As long as
else
they have as long as they have an owner-occupied home that's older than 1970 or older. Dimitri.
I've got a few things. In addition to the items that are listed as being eligible, I would just like to suggest that you might want to consider adding foundation repair because some of these exterior improvements don't make any sense if a house is on a bad foundation, and they're not going to want to improve something that's not on a good foundation. Also, you might want to consider exterior insulation because these older homes, they have wood siding, and a lot of them were not insulated way back when they were built. And if you don't insulate those exterior walls, that's why the paint peels on the outside of them. So if you just paint over that, they're just going to flake back off unless you insulate the walls. And that's due to condensation. You can look it up. My other point was that there should be something in here about verification that the work was completed, I think, if we're going to be paying these bills. And then lastly, I'd like to suggest we might want to consider using some language that would maybe require use of local contractors. That could further stimulate our economy. So.
Yeah, thanks for those comments, Dimitri. I will we'll add those, especially those eligible project types. That'll be good one for us to review. That's a good suggestions. Thanks.
Yeah, I like those too. Something that we didn't, and it's in there, but something that we didn't talk about too is that they do have to get 2 bids on any work that they do that would involve a grant. So similar to the downtown project, they would have to get 2 different bids. But I do like the idea of trying to use local contractors whenever possible. But we'll see how that pans out as we go through it, obviously. Eric?
If there's something that's not on the list, Dimitri obviously mentioned some. Who do we talk to get? I'm just thinking like porch, which is obviously facing the street, front steps, those kinds of things aren't on the list, but would those be eligible?
We have, I'll speak to it this way. There has been some of those items that have come up like in our downtown incentive program, and we have taken it to the CDA to say, hey, this is something that wasn't thought about. We see value in it. Are you okay adding this to the eligible items? And we've remained flexible in that area. I could see this going the same way. As far as discussing those things prior, I think if you guys have ideas, just like Dimitri said, throw them out there and we'll discuss them. This is for discussion and your input, so I think that's good.
And I think the bigger the list, the better, to tell you the truth. Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead.
And I see fence repair. What about somebody that wants to put up a new fence? Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, good question. We'll discuss that.
Yeah, I didn't think about it, but we'll, especially if you have a bad neighbor in between the yard. Sorry, Paul.
I want to put up a fence between my neighbor.
Whoa, maybe you guys could share in that. Go ahead, Kathy.
One of the things we should really consider, and this is only because I've been administering the CDBG revolving loan fund, is that with the age of the properties that we are looking at trying to rehabilitate, is that we should really look at lead abatement. Some of these older homes do have lead in them, and if we are doing some of these improvements, they may encounter even lead or even asbestos. So we should really look at that possibility because that will jack up the cost of any type of improvement.
Yeah.
Well, there.
Go ahead, Mary.
there's those ineligible projects. The first one is projects which do not directly improve the longevity of the home. And I think if we stick to that, those would be the only projects you wouldn't approve. You know, as long as it meets that criteria, I think kind of those unknown things that we're not thinking about could certainly be considered. And if they meet that, then I think they should be eligible.
Good. All right. Aaron, go ahead.
I just want to make one comment. I think it was Dimitri that mentioned the verification that work is completed. I think we do have some points there. I'll double check. If we don't, I'll make sure we do. But I know we discussed having it so that we could do site visits prior, and then before and after pictures are required upon submittal of all of the I guess, requests for funds at the end. So just wanted to mention that.
Well, and Andrew, you can probably speak to this, but we're using the downtown revitalization program as a prime example of this, and you've seen the before and after and gotten proof, and that has not been an issue, has it?
No, not really. In that case, it's a little simpler because we do require the inspection for most of those projects or all of them, whereas some of the items on here, people won't necessarily have to take a permit out. So technically, we wouldn't have to inspect it. Although I think the intent is to still have a, the before and after photo. We'd like people to snap a photo before and after. And then I think the intent was to get out and at least visit, each of the projects at some point during the project cycle.
All right. Any other? Go ahead, Colin.
In our community, which is, as you said in the presentation, 50-50 renter occupied versus owner occupied, why was your decision or your promotion for only owner occupied buildings? I think a lot of the buildings that truly need rehab are probably investor-owned properties. And although that would bring up a big can of worms, and how do you fund somebody's investment, I wonder why you guys did not consider that as to be an appropriate use for these funds.
I think you answered your question, quite honestly. We couldn't figure out how the landlord would pass that on to the tenant. And so we thought we'd roll it out with just owner-occupied homes. And if we do end up with money left over, we would look at doing a second project, maybe with landlord-tenant.
In one, I happen to be a landlord myself. In one case that I read, something I was applying for, there was a requirement to in general, in the future, rent to, for so many years, a low income or certain income based tenant. And anyway, that would be an input if you wanted to try and attract investment into those properties, which I think probably are the ones that are in the most need of any investment. And then my second point was I wondered how you came up with 1970. As far as the things that you're listed there, like a roof, a useful life for a roof is typically stated as 30 years. So, maybe, I wonder how you picked, well, I guess that's 50? Yeah, I guess I'll be 50 soon. I guess 50 instead of 30 or 40 or some other age.
That's a good question, Colin, and I think we just wanted to have the greatest impact on the oldest homes, but I'm not sure there was anything scientific to that number. So
Okay.
Could that be discussed? Yes, I think it could.
I want to go back to your first question, too, because I think that's a good point about the landlords and the tenants. But I think landlords that are out there, CAP services is available to those landlords as long as their tenants are responsible for their utilities. So if you haven't taken advantage or talked to CAP services about that, they will do weatherization type items, and you can get grants for those. But again, I think the precursor really is that the tenants have to be responsible for their own utilities, and then they would qualify for that. I think there's a little bit more to that. I'm probably making it easier than it is, but
our revolving loan fund does have some money available and will cover some of the landlord rentals, like the mayor said, for the lower income rentals, and there are funds available. They just have to make sure that they're meeting all the criteria. And most of it has to do with the lead abatement with the revolving loan fund.
Yeah, so there are things out there that people don't even know about, so again, that's another big thing that we're trying to do here is just get the word out. That there are things out there for you. You don't have to live in a house that's falling apart. There are opportunities for you. So, Dave.
My question is, are we limited to $10,000? You just set that number out there. Are these things most are probably doable in 10,000 or less, but what if somebody had two things to do or wanted to do a $20,000 project? Can they get 10,000 from you and then just add the 10 themselves? Something on that order. There's certain things be more cost than 10,000 on some of these items.
Well, I think the answer with the 100% grant is that, or any of those, they could do more than that. But we felt like to get the best impact was to limit that. And again, that was just an arbitrary number, the 10,000. It could be 4,000 or it could be 14,000 if you wanted to. But we just thought, well, it's easier to divide by 10,000 too, so to figure out how many homes that would affect. So, I'm not very good at math, so I have to do it in $10,000 figures, so.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. But your point is well taken. If we find that people are looking to do bigger projects, we will ask council to take a look at that again in the future.
I just want to comment and to piggyback. I think one good reason for making it a requirement that it's owner occupied is to prevent home flippers from buying the property, using city funds to improve the value, reselling it, and pocketing money off of a program. So it's another thing to.
Yeah, we did talk about that too, and there's pros and cons to that, quite honestly. I agree with the flipping part. That's not what we're trying to do here. But at the other side of the coin is that if they do flip it, they're selling it for more money. That means more tax dollars to the city too. So, but we also don't want to outprice our residents. We don't want every house to be worth $200,000 when we have people that can only afford $75,000 homes. So we're cognizant of that, and I think that's part of the reason why I agree. So the rollout period, I don't know if we've talked about doing this in the spring if the council approves this. We would like to be able to have people start in the spring and do spring projects. We don't think anybody's going to be doing any projects, in the next couple of months, but we certainly, would like to be ready to move forward March 1st or April 1st, somewhere around there. So it's kind of on a fast track, but I can tell you that we've been talking about this for quite a few months at our level. We just wanted to get a real good plan together before we presented it to you. So you'll see this, I guess, in the next couple meetings. Go ahead, Andrew.
Just one more comment, just some to think about as people were talking. We may want to consider potentially like a set aside, at least for a period of time, a set aside for the lower income, if you will, category, so that we don't just get a scenario where, the people who normally do these projects all of a sudden rush to the front of the line and use all the money. So that's just something to consider. We may want to do a carve out for, perhaps say we're going to take 50% of the funds or carve out some portion, at least for a period of time, for those grant eligible households.
Yeah, good point. We did talk about that too, and I don't think we figured out how to word that properly. Although we did think by having the CDA approve these that we would prioritize those requests for the lower income people first. Yeah. But we'll have to come up with some kind of wording. on that.
Looks
Be
like
that stiff.
I hope it's frozen.
Good for him. Any other questions or comments on this?
Well, I would just comment, this is a great program, and it's obvious you put a lot of work into it, and thank you for that. It's a really good, maybe not completed yet, but it's great. So thank you.
Yeah, Andrew and Aaron really put together the wording part of it, although I'm going to take 100% credit for it. They did a lot of all the background on it and stuff. And Kathy, I'm sorry, Kathy helped a lot. Yeah.
That's great.
Anybody, any other comments? Again, this is just for discussion. Go ahead, Colin.
This might be, I don't want to be mean, but Justin, one of the things that's eligible is water and sewer. Any thoughts of some way you could use these ARPA funds in that part of our city funds?
Within this program or just in
totally
general?
Separately. If you want to scratch the whole thing and say, hey, maybe we should use something that the city needs somewhere else.
I'll answer that for you, Colin. No, he doesn't have any funds.
All right.
He doesn't have any ability to use these funds. Yeah, sorry. You could talk about that after if you decide not to approve this, we'll talk about that later.
Well, I have no idea how to approve or not, but wondered if he had opinion on it.
I'm sure we could find things to use it for in water and sewer. We just thought that this was giving back to the community. This is the best way to do it. So, yeah. Okay. Any other comments on that? All right, discussion item. You'll see it hopefully at the next meeting, but maybe the next one after that. Communications, recommendations of the mayor. I just really have one item, maybe more, but one item. Tom Hart, has been our city attorney for many years, and his father, of course, was before that. We have a new agreement with Tom that Tom is still working for the city on a basis where he handles our violations and our tickets and so on in courts and that, but he will no longer be a person that's at every city council meeting. I think if we ask him to be at the city council meetings, he would on a specific time. I guess I haven't really asked him that, but this will be the last time you'll see Tom at the council meetings, but he is still working for us in a different way than he has been. So, Tom, I want to thank you for all your work over the years.
Thank you for commenting, Mayor, and I'm excited to continue working as a prosecutor. It's truly a privilege to be chosen to do that, so thank you, Council.
All right. Anything else for the good of the meeting tonight? All right, we'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Martin, second by Keelan, that we adjourn this this meeting until our next regular scheduled meeting, which is Tuesday, January 18th, 2022, subject to call. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. We are adjourned at 8:03 p.m. Have a great night. Drive safe. Stay warm.